Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. Cindy Lynn is on the podcast today. She's a home staging educator, a podcaster, and the founder of Stage for More School of Home Staging. Her podcast, The Home Staging Show, is the longest running and the #1 podcast on iTunes dedicated to home staging. Her goal is to provide modern, practical, and quality home staging education to help home stagers excel and build profitable and sustainable businesses. In our time together today, we focused on what staging is, how Cindy got started, and some of the pivots she has had in entrepreneurship. Cindy is always learning and trying to stretch herself. Listen in as she shares where she thinks she got that drive. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Cindy, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
It's my pleasure to have you as well. I know you and I have met. You hosted me on your podcast, The Home Staging Show, and it was pretty interesting. Though, I mean, you and I had talked certainly before we recorded yours, but it was really just an interesting parallel how much we kind of agreed on things and kept saying the same things, even though mine was more geared towards, I would say, interiors or even my own background, and yours was the same kind of thing, but on the staging side. Didn't you find that kind of cool and freaky all at the same time?
Yeah, I love it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love podcasting, because I really enjoy talking to people who are passionate about their business. And I think when you talk to a lot of top performers, including yourself, there's a really a way to do things, and a lot of it has to do with systems and having these kind of workflows that you can apply over and over again, and then really increase efficiencies and also have a really a strong understanding of your numbers. I think it's very, very important in running any type of business.
I would agree with that. Cindy, why don't you start by sharing with our listeners a little bit about your business and how you got started?
Yeah. So I am Cindy Lynn, in case you haven't found out yet, but I started my business, my home staging business, when I first actually graduated from school. So after school, I worked a year for AmeriCorps in Washington, D.C., and I moved back to the Bay Area. And I was trying to find a job that really fits with my skill set. But unfortunately, at the time, the job market was not doing well. So my mom was like, why don't you become a real estate agent? It seems like it'll be right up your alley. And I really love houses. Like, I really enjoy going to different interiors. And I thought, okay, I'll give this a try. And through being a real estate agent, I found out about staging. So it was a very natural transition for me. I basically jumped into staging and never looked back. And so that was in 2006 when I started my home staging business. And fast forward 10, 11 years, I was podcasting for a few years. There was something very significantly changed in my personal life that just made me feel like I have more to contribute, and I really want to make a big impact on the industry. And by doing work one-on-one locally, wasn't really doing it anymore. And when I was podcasting, I realized by having the podcast, I can reach out to more people. So I decided to make the transition over, because I still love staging. I don't want to get out of it. So I decided to transition over to turn everything I know into courses and content and podcasts, and turn that into an online business model. So I have a very kind of unusual, I think, background when it comes to home staging. And personally, I actually also now work as a photographer. So for me, I'm always like, learning is a really big part of my life. I'm a Sagittarius. I'm a little ooh like that, being a Californian, but I'm a very typical Sagittarius, I think. Like, I teaching and traveling is really two very big components in my life, personally and professionally. So that's just basically my story in a nutshell.
I think you and I talked about that. Our birthdays are pretty close. I'm a
Yeah.
Sagittarius. Yeah, I'm a December 2nd baby. So
Yeah, I'm just a few days behind you.
yeah, I think I remember us talking about our birthdays being pretty close. And so, what's interesting to me is that if you think about even the workflow, Cindy, of staging and real estate, the house goes up for sale, the staging goes in, and then you have to do the photography. You know what I mean? So, in some kind of weird way, those all three, maybe not weird, logical way, they all three do go together and all support where you're moving forward with your business.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm always I think I'm very good at connecting dots in the sense that I'm really good at kind of clustering things in a way. And for me, running a business has a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of logistics to it. I mean, they talk about left brain and right brain, and it's because both my parents had their own businesses and both sets of my grandparents had their own businesses. So for me, having a business is not really a far reach because I kind of grew up in that environment where both my parents and both sets of my grandparents were all self-employed. So for me, it was kind of like I love the business side of things and I also love the creative side of things. So thought staging was a really perfect marriage of that because you get to do the creative side of things and at the same time you still get to play and experiment with different business strategies, which I really, really enjoy. I'm a really a business nerd. Like I love studying business models. Like I actually worked for different creative industries. Like I worked in the wedding industry for a little bit. I worked in floristry for a little bit, and now working as a photographer. But the thing is, like, there is kind of a common theme in terms of how all these different types of creative business all work. Like, essentially, it comes down to like you need to strive to make profits because profits really solve any problem you will have in the business. Whether you're too busy, you can't hire people, once you get profit into the door, you're able to grow. And the other thing really is systems. Like I'm really a big systems person. Like I think workflow is very important and then efficiency is very important because our times and resources are very limited. So for me, I'm always trying to maximize like how can I do this most efficiently. I'm also very lazy. Like I don't like to do more work than I have to. So efficiency is very, very important for me. And also I'm cheap. Like I think like having Asian parents do that to you, it's just like I'm super frugal. Like I'm very risk averse. Like yesterday we hosted free training with an attorney, a business attorney, and he was talking about different risk assessment in your business. I'm definitely on the very conservative side. This is why like I really fiercely try to implement as many systems as we can so we can close kind of the loophole. Like in my own course I call it kind of the money leaks because like when for example when there's a loophole in your contract, it will leak money because your client may be able to take advantage of that loophole if you don't close it, and they might get away from paying, additional like terms like you'll have maybe like they want to stage the house last minute and you didn't implement like a last minute emergency fee because
Mhm.
usually those kind of things you have to pay extra to get movers, to get furniture rental or whatnot.
Right.
Those are kind of things, if you plug up those little holes in your business, like I think it will help you to become more profitable in general.
Yeah, I call them similar. I call them profit leaks. But hey, I want to talk to you for just a minute. It's a little bit off what I have written, but I'm so super curious. I don't think I've ever met someone whose mom and dad were both entrepreneurs as well as their grandparents. So that's pretty amazing. And so to use your words, entrepreneurship wasn't a far reach. What was enticing to you about the world of entrepreneurship and owning your own business after seeing it played out in your family in so many different ways? What was the draw? And I'm asking because I've seen some children of entrepreneurs walk away because they didn't want to do that. They wanted something that was more talk about risk, right? They wanted something that was a little bit more planned out, or a little bit more steady, and not quite the the different type of input
Yeah.
that you have to have for entrepreneurship. So what was it that you saw that was attractive to you for entrepreneurship?
I'm not super sure, but I know actually for me, I think one of the most important lessons I learned in my 20s was that I was really blindly chasing the revenue because my parents both have businesses, but they have very different businesses. So my mom was a dentist and she worked in a hospital for 16 years before she had her own practice. And I basically grew up in my mom's dental office. Like I was entertaining patients' kids, babysitting them. I was kind of the receptionist. There are stories where my mom told me like how she was sick when she was pregnant with my sister. She had really bad morning sickness. I was the one who called her patient and rescheduled. Like I was like probably like 5. I had no really memory of recollection of this, but that's apparently what I did. And I think it was really natural the way I think for my personality, I'm not really suitable in a 9 to 5 type of job where there's kind of the repetition every day, which is also kind of funny because when you are entrepreneur, like I really feel like the 80/20 rule applies. This is one of the things I would feel really frustrated about running a home staging business because I only was spending 20% of my time doing the creative stuff, like on-site staging. And then 80% of stuff I'm bogged down in the admin and the operations and coordination and all that. But at the end of the day, I still love it. My father had a very different business. He had a construction company, but we did constructions for government agencies. So the scale of both businesses were very different. So when I first started staging, I thought I want my father's business model. Like I wanted a big office, I wanted staff, I want trucks, I want a big warehouse. And when I was slowly progressing through my journey as a business owner, I realized that that actually wasn't really what I want. Like it wasn't something that really fit my personality and the true vision of how I want to run my business. I want a much smaller, flexible team. So we end up not having any more employees. We just have freelancers that come in and out of our staging jobs to assist us. And I wanted a very flexible and very nimble and very quick to react kind of business model because I real estate has a lot of moving pieces, and by having a smaller business operation actually was something more preferable for me. And I think I stumbled really into it because at a time when I first got out of school, got out of AmeriCorps, I really couldn't find a job. Like I was trying really hard to find a job in nonprofit sector because that's really where, like throughout my university years, that was really where I was heading toward. Like I was really wanting to do development in nonprofit, but I really couldn't find a job. And my parents were like, well, why don't you like try starting your own business? Because that's a really great way to work as well. And I tried it and I just kind of addicted to it. Like I have friends who make way more money than me working for like a Facebook or Google, doing even just secretarial kind of executive assistant kind of thing. But for me, at the end of the day, I still rather have my own business. I think a lot of children of entrepreneurs see the flip side of things because they see their parents work very hard and maybe they had to make a lot of personal sacrifices, like not being able to spend time with them, or even lose the house or property in a very significant way. Fortunately, both my parents were fairly successful in their business endeavors, and I think that kind of attribute to, because I really grew up in that environment, and I see that you can create freedom within your own business no matter how busy you are. Both my parents have very strong business, like strong work ethics. Will work they will work, you know 20 hours a day if they could, but there are times where they can step back and then be with me and my sister. So I'd like the flexibility within the entrepreneur lifestyle. And for me, it's really interesting line of work because I get to meet a lot of interesting people. Even though I'm actually an introverted person, I really prefer to be behind the scene. But, you know, what I really like about this type of life also is it really pushes me out to do things that I normally wouldn't do if I were in a 9 to 5 job, if I were to work for someone. And I think that's why I really love having my own business, because I really feel like I do have the power to create the potential and the dream and the life that I want. And I can really tailor my business toward the life that I want to live. I know it's a bit different than the generation my parents grew up in, but for me it was kind of like it just happened like at the, I don't know, they say being at the right place at the right time, and it's just so the circumstance of my life at the time made this business happen, and I just chose to really stick with it and to really drive at it. And so I think I don't really think about what attractive aspect of it. I just know that like I don't really like to work for someone else,
Yeah.
and I liked having that freedom.
Well, one of the reasons I asked too, Cindy, is, I'm constantly talking to men and women who are entrepreneurs, right, as part of the podcast. And quite often there is some concern about, what is my son or daughter learning from watching me? What are they seeing? And there's a lot of parental guilt that goes around. You made the comment about maybe missing time with kids, and so there's a lot of guilt that goes with that. Am I sharing with them what I should be? Am I not sharing? Am I with them? Am I not with them? Just a lot of, some of it's just normal parental guilt, I think, regardless of where we work or how we work. But I do think it is compounded by the journey of entrepreneurship. So it's so great to hear from, if you will, a daughter of entrepreneurs, and how you have chosen to continue the entrepreneurial path of your family, but in a way that works for you and your dreams and your goals. And so I find that to be super exciting and super empowering for us, and for maybe what we're sharing with our kids, that you can have this dream and you don't have to chase the money. I think that's one of the reasons that I keep trying to say over and over, that in the podcast Profit is a Choice, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about profitability of lifestyle, profitability of health, profitability of speech, of communication, of relationship, all those things that make us well-rounded, multi-dimensional people, not one-dimensional chasing the dollar. That's not what it all is about. We certainly have to make enough money to be profitable so that we can sustain what we're doing and building and growing. But I just thank you for sharing. I know it wasn't on our list of things we were going to talk about, but it struck me when you said it. Okay, there's something I want to hear about, because I think a lot of our listeners will be excited to hear that
Yeah.
that there's like not this begrudging, I'm the child of entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? Instead,
No, I know what you mean.
say
But
it
I
with
think,
the pride. And I love
yeah,
that. I want my children to say, I'm proud of my mom that she took an entrepreneurial path, because again, I'm probably closer to an age of your parents, and it was not the path that we were educated for when we went to school. We were educated to go
yeah.
get a job and to work corporate, because that's most of what was out there at the time. And so I want my kids to see, if they choose to work corporate, which they are right now, enjoy it. But if you choose to do something different, there is joy and peace in that as well. It's hard work, but there's joy in it as well.
Yeah, I firmly agree with that. And I think a lot of it I credit my mother. I actually wrote a blog post on it. I can send it to you for show notes. But my mom actually, I mean, is I grew up in Taiwan. I was born and raised in Taiwan. I didn't move to the States till I was a teenager. And my mom, in the traditional sense that once women like her generation, if when you're married, like you're expected basically not to work. My mom chose to work, and it was very difficult for her because she had to, in the morning get us kids ready and then go to her, office. Actually, she was operating out of my grandfather's apartment, which is very common in Taiwan, in the 80s and 90s. but like and then so she would see patients basically part-time, during the time when we were in school. And then when we're there after school, she like, like lay out snacks and stuff, and she goes back to her patients. And at the end of the day, she took us kids on the bus and back to our home. And then she had to make dinner and then do house chores and all that. She did not have to work, but she chose to. And I think that was something that really made an impact on me, because I saw that by working, she had joy, she had fulfillment from her work, and that was really important for her. Even though sometimes my father was very upset about it, because he grew up in that traditional kind of Asian typical upbringing. So so the thing is, like, even though they fought about it sometimes, my mom still insisted on working, because if it gave her joy, it gave her fulfillment, and that was very important for her. And I think it's a really good concept for me to grab that, because I think a lot of times, this is not a criticism to people who have children, but I think a lot of women, they feel like children is solely their world once they have children. And sometimes they feel like that's not enough, because they may not have that sense of fulfillment like they were working anymore, and they feel like they're missing out. But my mom, she made it work. She worked really hard to do that. And so I think for me, that was really important to see as a woman, as a girl, because I think that's something that really inspired me to find work that truly fulfills me and I feel passionate about, and not just working in a job to take a paycheck.
Wow, I almost feel like I could cry. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that and letting us kind of go there. I think that is it's beautiful, and it's exactly what I wanted my sons to learn from me. The same type of thing, because I knew that at one at some point they may get married and their spouse may choose a completely different path than what I chose or what the norm is, and I wanted them to be open, um, so not stuck in old ways, right? To be able to have a conversation with their spouse to find out what's best for everybody in their family unit. So I love that so much. So let me ask you this. So you've been in staging for a while. You've chosen to create educational content, move into an online space so that you can really help impact more businesses with the information that you have. What do you see as the three biggest mistakes that stagers often make in business?
I think one is that they don't do enough research before they get into this job. Actually, there's a lot of moving pieces in home staging industry, and depending on your business model, um, it can really vary. And the one of the reason why I started my own school is that I was frustrated with the way home staging trainings are traditionally run, because I felt that, because I've been through those trainings, I've been through several of them actually, and it gave me my start, which was I'm very grateful for, because it really gave me the life that I have now. It all started from those courses. But having been through that, I see there's a big missing part of things, is that between you graduated from one of those certification programs to when you're actually successful at doing at running a home staging business, there's actually a lot of missing links in between. And so for me, it was really, really important to start something that's a bit different. I don't really have any interest to become another ASP or CSP or HSR type of certifications. For me, it's really about providing the continuing education that home stagers need to really well round out running a business. Because as you know, yourself, running a business is not just about the technical side of things. I had an opportunity to work for Michael Gerber, who is the author of E-Myth, for a brief period. Like, I traveled with his team to conferences. So through him, I met a lot of 6, 7, 8 figure business owners. And the common thread of it is really that they have the system that really, they have the system and people in place to really replace them out of that business. If something were to happen, maybe they would go on vacation, or they're sick, or a family emergency, there's always a team and a system behind that to really replace them. And that's how you can really duplicate and make your business scale to a larger scale. I learned a lot from Michael when I was working for him. So in eMyth, it talks about the three different personalities of running a business of a business owner. It has a technical side. So for home stager, that would be the creative side, doing staging. It has the operational side, which is the manager. And it also has the dreamer side, which is the vision. Like, what do you envision for your business? And most stagers, I think, coming to business, they feel like they're really strong at the technical side, and they may not be very strong on the operational side. Maybe they have a really big vision for their business, but they lack the executions for it. So a lot of times, I think one of the crucial mistakes that people make when they come into this industry is that they didn't do enough research. They didn't really fully get the picture in terms of what sorts of business models are out there and what sorts of like operational costs and like infrastructure you would need to support that kind of business. And the second mistake is going back to the whole idea of eMyth. If your audience like haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. It's a super quick read. Michael is very conversational in his writing, so it will probably take you a day at most. And English is my second language. Like, I was able to zoom through that book very fast. So the other thing is that people really focus on the technical side of things, which is staging, but they lack the operational side of things, which is the systems. And systems, we're not just talking about operational systems. It's not just, how you schedule movers and how you do the workflow for the day of the staging or prep and stuff like that. It also has to do with your financial systems, with your marketing systems. So for us, like I built this course called Six Figure Floor Plan, and it's really all about systems, for example. And it's basically like a very intense like business in the box. So we have 6 modules, and the first 3 modules is all about finding out like how to build out your marketing system, like what are some of the activities you need to do consistently to market, and what are some of the things that you need to do to really research who your potential customers are. And the last thing I want to talk about is really, it has to do with lack of marketing. A lot of it's lack of focus. Is that you're not targeting specific enough for a specific a clientele. A lot of times people come into staging, they want to do every single job there is under the sun. I was the same way exactly when I first started my business. And I had this vision that I wanted to do like big houses, like McMansions, multi-million dollars. Like, I was like, that is where I want to be. And after being in staging for a while and tried pretty much every type of job there were, I realized that that actually wasn't what I want to do. Like, I like doing starter homes. They're quick turnaround, quick in and out. And I love it. I mean, I love making small places, small spaces look big. So it was really, really important for me to kind of figure out, where is my zone of genius? Where is my sweet spot? Where's my niche? Because everything I teach really has to do with targeting. It's like you need to really focus on who exactly your target market is. And then you need to figure out what are the ways to trigger them to buy your services, to call you, to come out, and to become fan of yours so they can tell their colleague and they can book you. So I think it's really, these are the 3 critical things that I see most home stagers make mistakes on.
What's interesting is I would say those could probably be the same 3 mistakes that we see many businesses, regardless of the type of business, make mistakes: marketing, targeting, directness, focus, all those things, education, the systems and the workflows, like back with interior design or even custom draperies or upholstery. It doesn't matter. Name one of the creative industries. It's just like, and I love eMyth, by the way, I think one of his opening analogies is he has this person that bakes pies, and she's so great at baking pies, she decides to open a bakery, right? So now she's a manager and not the technician.
And then she hates it too.
She hates it. She doesn't like that. She wants to go back to baking pies, but now she's got to plan all the orders and run the business and do all these extra things. And she doesn't even get to have the joy of baking the pies anymore. Something that I noticed is a thread that you've said twice now that I just want to highlight for the listeners, because I think it allows us some freedom. And Cindy, the first thing was when you were talking about looking at the framework of your parents' entrepreneurial journeys and looking at the framework of the companies that they built, and you thought you wanted your framework to look like your dad's, and then you got into it and realized that wasn't what you wanted. And the same thing you said again, I thought what I wanted was to stage them at mansions. You tried it, you did it, and then you realized that wasn't the framework that you wanted. And both times you stopped and took a step back and asked yourself, what do I want out of this business? Again, we can fill in the blank with staging, photography, right? Anything. But you stopped and asked yourself, what is it that brings me fulfillment and joy and pays the bills and keeps me going and is what I want to do? Where's my niche? Where's my target? Where's my focus? And so I love that so much, because no matter, what we're working in right now, we should stop and ask ourselves. That's one of the things I say about my coaching that I would say sets me apart from many. I don't teach one way to do everything. Like, I don't have the Michelle 10-step process and you have to go through all the 10 steps and do it these 10 ways. I don't have, I would say, blanket outlines for you've got to do it this way. What I say is, tell me what feeds your soul. Tell me how you're created. Tell me what your strengths and your mission and vision. Tell me about you. Now let me help support you and where you want to go. There are certainly great principles and systems and, like you said, workflows and efficiencies that I can help you with. But we can tweak them for each person and each type of business if we stop and ask them, what do you want? Instead of just trying to make everybody cookie cutters of everybody else. So I applaud you for realizing that and trying enough to figure it out.
Yeah, and I really credit actually my business coach for that. And this is one of the things I really encourage business owners to do, is just go out and find your network and find your tribe. I Because I started my business when I was 25, and the average real estate agent in my county was 55 years old. And so I feel very self-conscious and inadequate. And so I really was aggressively trying to network. And I also feel like, because most of the stagers got into the business, it's a bit different now, but at the time, most stagers got into business coming from corporate America, or they already had business experience. And I didn't really have that when I first graduated from college and then worked for AmeriCorps. Like, I learned about branding and all this stuff, but I didn't really learn about how to run a business. And so I started really going to a lot of different business network meetings. I just start trying to learn as much I can about business. And one of the opportunities I had was, I met this woman who was very encouraging, and then she told me about this organization called Count Me In. They're no longer in business anymore. I think they closed doors a few years ago. But the thing is that they had a business competition, and I applied and I won in my category. And so I got a free year of business coaching. And that really shifted my business, because having someone who understands what kind of business you run and understand what are some of the common pitfalls that business owners fall into was really, really important, because it really and I had a few different business coach throughout the process, but my last and the longest like business coach I had, I think I worked for her with like several years. Alicia really helped me shifted my mindset. And that's when really everything clicked for me. Like, I was able to go from like, oh, I don't know where next job coming from, to a six-figure business in a very short amount of time once I shifted my mindset. Because I realized I was chasing things blindly. Like, I wasn't really like I talk about, like, I wanted my father's business model, and I didn't realize like that's actually not what I want. That's not really reflecting my core value. I
Right.
think it has to come back to the why. There's another book called What is Your Why?
Start with Why by Simon Sinek.
Start with that. Yeah,
Yep,
that
I'll
is
put
a
it in
great
the show
book.
notes. It's
Highly
my
recommend
favorite.
it. Yeah, because that's really kind of one of the internal questions I always ask. Like, what is my why? Like, if I take on this job, like, is this fulfilling my purpose, my core value? Is it aligned to my value? So it's really, really important for me. And then so throughout those kind of work, we did a lot of mindset work. And it really, really helped me shifted my business. I didn't really realize at first, but once I got that clarity of what I want out of my business, then everything shifted for me. Because in my 20s, I really was kind of like, I'm working for my business. I was really sacrificing a lot of personal life because of that. And I was okay with it. I'm not complaining, you know. But in my 30, I really shifted. Like I think it had to do with, like, once you turn 30, I think something in yourself kind of clicked and kind of like,
Girl,
this is not
you're gonna
really why.
click at 30, you're gonna click at 40, you have no
40, yeah,
50.
you know, I'm
I'm waiting
almost
on the
40.
click
So
at 60.
yeah, so it's like I know it, you know, like I just, a lot of things shifted, priorities shifted, you know, all
Yeah.
that kind of things. Your life shifted. And so for me, it just, that coaching work was so integral, I think, and pivotal, because it really helped me gain the clarity for my business. And
Yeah,
this is why when
I
I,
think
yeah,
that's so true. Mindset work is huge. And I would
yeah,
suggest that having the right mindset and focus is probably 80 to 90% of success. Hard work certainly pays off, but working towards the wrong things in the wrong way with the wrong attitude does not bring the joy, and it certainly doesn't bring the success that I think we're looking for. It feels empty if you achieve it. And so that mindset work is huge, huge. So I'm so
totally.
glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we're looking at business models for staging, what are would you say are the top two or three kind of business models that people use? I mean, I know there's, or at least the way I think about it is there's like a walk and talk model, there's a full staging, there's a, you know,
Yeah.
staging while people live in the house. What do you see as the top three models in today's climate?
So when I first started, I think the models are very clearly defined. So, you know, you're a vacant home stager, you do vacant homes, or you do occupy staging, or, you know, you do both. I think when I was graduating from a training school, they kind of teach you to do all of it. And I think in today's climate, I think people are changing. I'm maybe biased because I'm a really huge fan of finding your niche. Like, for my sweet spot is that we stage in certain neighborhoods of San Francisco Bay Area, in specifically in Sunset Richmond District or Daly City and Pacifica, because all these neighborhood homes have very similar type of floor plan. So we already know we can dominate those. We can do this job very quickly, 5 hours in and out, boom. Like, we're talking about from warehouse traffic to the house, unload, stage, and be back home. So, you know, we can do the job very efficiently. And the thing is, once we niche down to have this very specific type of homes, they're roughly around 1,800 square feet, two bedrooms, you know, kind of thing, 2 to 3 bedroom kind of thing. And then we were able to really streamline our operations as well, because we can just buy the same type of inventory, like that are similar sizes. You know, the couch is certain size, the sofa, you know, the accent chair is certain size, the dining table of a certain size. I don't have to go buy every single type of inventory there are. So it makes the business much more efficient. I mean, the thing is, once you niche down, when your inventory is streamlined, your storage is streamlined as well, because we don't have to make customized shelving for an extra piece of extra large artwork or extra large sofa kind of thing. So I think the business model now today is more, I think, a more bland. I think the edge between interior design, interior decorating, styling, and staging are getting really blurred, because you're starting to see stagers doing, you know, staging to live kind of, you know, job. They're more and more common nowadays. And
Right.
also staging to rent, like Airbnbs, vacation homes, and all those type of jobs. And we also see stagers start doing event design, which I did as well. Like, I did friend's wedding and we got published and all that, and event decor, holiday decor. I think the more successful business models are really the ones where the whole, like, the business owners really have a very strong focus of their sense of style. Like, I think you have to tell the visual story about your brand. So no matter what type of jobs you're doing, you are still following that kind of look and feel and that brand. that you're exuding. If you look at Joanna Gaines, for example, she's able to take that farmhouse chic, basically apply that to a wide range of industries, not only to the properties that they sold, invested, and staged, but also, a furniture line,
Mhm.
accessories line in Target, collaboration with rug companies and all that. She's able to apply that style in a wide variety of different industries. There's no reason why stagers can't do that. So I think whatever your infrastructure is, like whether you're doing Airbnbs plus vacant home stagings, or you only do occupies, or you only do walk-in talks, the bottom line is that you need to have a very strong brand. You need to have a very curated look. If we look at trends right now in Instagram, for example, all the big interior, or actually all the big influencers, they have a very specific type of style. Like Gary Vee, he's an online marketer, but he has a one style, right? It's very, very rough, very New York, very like
Right.
in your face, very brash. If you look at Emily Henderson, she's a big interior blogger and stylist. She has a very, very fresh California look. And if you look at somebody who's like shabby chic, that's, I'm spacing out her on her name. I think Rachel something. It's all, her sense of style. It's very curated. Instagram is a very good example of that, I think, because people want to have that very curated look. If your brand is all over the place, people can't really understand you. And so I think today people are focusing more on specialization. We see that with real estate agents as well. Like the most real estate agents, the most successful ones, they're not the ones who are out there doing every type of listing. They're specialized. They are specialized in a certain neighborhood because that certain neighborhood probably has a similar architectural style, have a very similar demographic. So in terms of marketing, you can really hone in on the message. And once you be able to dominate that niche, you're able to expand that very quickly because you already have social proof, you already have testimonials, you already have all these successful stats that you have. And so I think today's successful business model is really to have a very honed in brand and really understand where your sweet spot and your niche is, and to be able to grow from that.
I agree. I totally agree. Um, when we've had so many people on the podcast who've talked about elements of all of that the same way. So let me ask you this. I guess you kind of have answered it. Is there anything else you would add to what you see the future of staging? I think one of the things that's interesting, Cindy, is years ago when staging was really coming up as a business model that people were looking at. And I'm talking like 15, 20 years ago. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, it was very narrow. And now, as you've pointed out, it is much broader and the lines are getting much blurrier between, and I'm not talking about interior design to the point of, I would say maybe in its most natural form of tearing down walls and doing all that. But
no, yeah,
on the decorating side of it, right? On the accessorizing side of design, when you look at that and you look at the designers and decorators and stylists and stagers, it is getting very muddy
it
across
is.
the lines. And they all are like in the past, you would mostly see these branding kind of things happening with interior designers when they're selling product. Now you're seeing it everywhere. I even just think about, what is your name? Is it Ree Drummond that was out of
Yes.
like Colorado that
Mhm.
started a blog about cooking for her family and, moving from the city and out to the country. And now she's got, she's got a cookbook, she's had a TV show, she's got kitchen appliances and kitchenware and just, it's moved into interior living so that it looks like Pioneer Woman. So
Yeah.
you're seeing it a lot of influences in everything. And I think the whole staging industry has done the same thing. It's blown up. In some ways, it's gotten deeper and wider, and which is why we have to focus a little bit more to
Yeah,
kind
and
of.
sorry, I think a lot of it has to do with today's buyers and today's consumer. And I think millennials, the way they buy and the way they absorb information really has changed the industry quite a bit. I think the industry is leaning toward to be more transparent. Um, I think one of the frustrating thing I have about real estate industry and staging as well is that I feel like a lot of people resist changes. I personally do not feel like, so one of the things that's really different for my business is that I choose not to have a certification because I don't think it makes sense for me as a school to self-certify my course. It's like you go into a restaurant, you ask the waiter what is good, and they tell you everything. It doesn't really make sense to me. It also doesn't make sense for me that if someone buys a course, they have to keep paying an annual fee every year for some sort of association or stuff like that. I'm not really interested in that kind of business model. So I made a very conscious decision, even though I know by slapping some sort of acronym on our courses, people are more likely going to buy because they feel like they have a certificate behind it. But working in the actual, I did staging for 12, 11 years. No clients ever asked me for that. So realistically, for me, I feel like because the way information is transmitted nowadays, social media, I think there's going to be more and more transparency. I think the older business models where you don't really tell anybody anything, it's really doing yourself a disservice because buyers today are smart. They have Google. Same, like, so do you. Anything they want to look up, they can. If people can learn how to make bombs on the internet, there's no reason why they can't find out about staging. I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, that's how I usually put it. Like, when someone tells me, "Oh, I can't do this," I'm like, seriously, people are learning how to make drugs off internet. Like, you can't figure how to like import this, stuff like that. So, for me, it's really, really important, I think, for industry. Like, I think this goes across different businesses as well. It's that you need to start embracing technology and leverage technology, and how can it help you to increase efficiency in your business. A lot of times, like, I was reading about this post in the forum the other day, and this woman was like, credit card fees are so huge that we just switch to ACH, which is like online checks. We will save so much money in processing fees. And I'm just kind of like, really? Because millennials today, a lot of them don't have checkbooks. How are they going to pay you? um we did like a partnership with a vendor the other day, and then so she needs to send us payment to reimburse us for expense, and then I was just like, it's fine if you just want to send a check, and she's like, I don't have a checkbook. I mean, like, things like that. So I think we really need to understand how today's consumers are buying, and I'm not talking in a very broad sense. I'm talking about, if you're a home stager, your demographic, right? You know who are buying your services. Like, what are some of the things that are really, really important to them? You really need to understand that. And I think a lot of issues why people struggle in this business and they burn out is because they're not leveraging things to make them more efficient. I mean, we use 17 hats in our staging business. There are many different project management systems, like Honeybooks or Dusabi. There are tons of them out there. What's the point of sending a client a contract and have them print it and mail it back to you just so they can sign it, when you can leverage an e-signing business and get that done in 5 seconds,
Mhm.
right?
I agree.
What's the point of having clients send you a paper check and wait for that to clear when you take credit card payment and get that cleared, in 5 minutes, and very clearly if they paid or not,
Right.
right? I understand there are risks involved. Like, I'm sure they can call the credit card company and say that, oh, I didn't make this charge, and they dispute it. I mean, that's going to happen in any type of payment form you have. So I think people need to make decisions and then really figure out how you can use technology to leverage all these things. Like, for example, a lot of times people are really bogged down on the operation side of things. With a project management system, like 17 Hats or Honeybook, you can send a client a proposal, and you can immediately tell if they open it or not. And from that, you can set up a workflow to send out an automated follow-up email and say like, hey, we saw that you opened the proposal. Do you have any questions? How can we help you? You can use that to help to bridge the gap and create more communication and create more touch points to talk to your clients and make them warm up to you. And it's the same thing. I mean, we had a workflow before even clients call us. They fill out a form on the website, tell us about their staging project. So how big a house is this? What neighborhood is it in? What type of job, are you looking for? Are you doing vacant staging or occupied? Because for example, I choose not to do any occupied homes because our inventory get ruined. People always said that we're not going to let our dogs on it, and they always do. And so we purposely remove occupied staging out of our service offering. And so when they fill out the form and I see that they click occupied staging, I can immediately send an email back very quickly and say, hey, I'm so sorry, we don't do occupied home staging. And immediately that's going to save so much time than you going on the job site, meeting them for an estimate, and then realize that, oh my God, I didn't screen my client enough that this is not a good fit for me. So I just wasted half an hour driving, and I'm wasting half an hour of my time and their time as well. So a lot of things can be done in terms of automation to bridge those kind of inefficiency in the business. So I really feel that transparency is really important nowadays for today's buyers, because people are more and more used to that. I mean, you see corporations do it, right? They're really transparent where dollars are going to. It's the same with your buyers. So people are getting used to that kind of buying behavior. So as business owner, you have to adapt to that. Be more transparent about your business practice. I'm not telling you to like publish
Right. We don't
your,
have to tell them every detail,
you
but
don't have to tell them every detail, but tell them enough so they understand
right.
why you do what you do and why you are the best person for them to hire you. And a lot of it has to do with relationship building as well. A lot of times people, I think one of the things with having a smartphone, that everyone has it now, is that people think, oh, if I just do online marketing all the time, I will get clients. The other day I see a question asked by a new stager. It's like, how do I talk to a real estate client if I'm not emailing them? I mean, that's the thing with the younger generation, because my generation, your generation, we're really used to calling people, right?
Right.
Sometimes calling people is much faster than just emailing back and forth for like 10 different emails. So a lot of times it's like you have to understand how we can create and tailor our service offering, our marketing message to today's buyers, but also still fit within your purpose. So I think transparency, leveraging technology is really going to help. Sorry, I know that's a really long answer for your question.
No, but that's okay. So what is one of the next profit goals in your business, Cindy? What are you working towards?
I've been doing a lot of back end stuff right now to increase efficiency for our students, actually. So for the longest time, because we're still in the startup mode, I think. Like, so in the beginning, it really is, one of the things for me is that in order to increase profit, I need to decrease expense, right? So that's one of the things in the very beginning that I learned from my staging business. That's what I need to do when we transition the business model. And so, for example, our course platform is hosted on Squarespace, and it's very efficient. We're not paying something like a Teachable where it's you pay annual fee and all this extra other things, that kind of stuff. But now we're actually switching to a much more robust course platform, because I see that once we start adding into more courses, because I'm already planning for 2020, like the first year and half, the first half of the year actually, like what are some the missing courses that we need to offer that people really need. Like a lot of things that I'm looking at is that a lot of stagers are doing great work, but they don't understand how to present that. They're shooting photos from their smartphones, but they're not editing them. So it doesn't look very good in terms of like, presentation. So we are rolling out a new course on that, just on photography for your portfolio and how to, shoot things from a DSLR, like a robust camera versus, from your iPhone.
Right.
So because I see that like my students need it. So for me, it's really kind of trying to figure out what are some of the things that I can do to really improve the experience for our existing students. And this is why I like a very flexible business model, because I think with the bigger training schools, they already have a very big infrastructure. So for them to make those kind of updates is fairly difficult. I update my courses actually very often. Like I look at my courses all the time. I'm always trying to figure out ways to improve it. I'm kind of a perfectionist, but I'm also kind of not. Because if you look at my website, I know there's a lot of grammar mistakes, and people email me fairly often about that. But for me, it's like I need to get content out to really get it out there for it to do good for the people. So these kind of small details that I'm kind of just like, it's okay to let go right now. But right now we have more and more students in our community, and more people through our free training. Our list is growing, that I really need to start working on these kind of fine-tuning kind of things to make sure that people have a better experience, whether they're coming on our website to get free content through the blog and podcast and our free training, and also our paying students who are within our community. So for example, I'm planning for like a membership club just for our community, but also open to the public if stagers want to buy into it, but it's free for our alumni. But it's to add in more opportunities for like coaching calls, for example, for like, or like marketing, like how, like boot camp and stuff like that, that we can really help our students like to succeed in what they're doing. Because I think that's ultimately the goal for having a school, is that like there's no point, I'm not interested in taking people's money and run, you know.
Right,
I
right,
want them truly to be successful in what they're doing. And
right.
that's why for me it's really important to find partners to come in and do free training, and also to do paid training as well, to create courses that can really benefit the community at large.
Right.
So
And
that's
I
what
think
I've
that's
been
what,
working on.
yeah, and I think we have a lot of that, just that idea in common of how we want to serve the people that we work with. I feel the same way about my designers inner circle and those that are in there that I am trying to support and take care of. Cindy, where can people find you? Where are you hanging out online?
I'm always on stage4.com, and you can find me basically on all the major social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, all with the name Stage for More. It's spelled STAGED number 4 MORE.
Perfect. Cindy, thank you so much for taking the time to share today about systems and workflows and efficiencies and entrepreneurship and all the myriad of other things we talked about. I appreciate your insight and your desire to encourage and to train and to help the staging community. So thank you so much for sharing that today.
Yeah, no problem. It was such a pleasure. I actually never get interviewed. I always interview other people. So it's actually really fun to be on the other side of
On the other
things.
side of the microphone. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, you did a great job, and I'm so glad that you shared with us.
Thank you so much for having me again.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Cindy, for the conversation. Staging, like other design types of careers, can be accomplished in more than one way. Try out the different types of staging if it interests you at all, right? Just to see what works best for you. If you have questions on how to determine what you want to do, reach out. We help you strategize in the Designer's Inner Circle to determine the type of business that is right for you. Go to scarletthreadconsulting.com where we provide all the details. Profit is a choice. It really is, which means it's not an accident.